Why you run away from what you need most. You know when you need to have that difficult conversation with someone, but you keep putting it off, or when you know you should go to therapy, but you always find an excuse not to. What about when you're aware that certain relationship is toxic, but you can't bring yourself to end it? Here's what's fascinating. You're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not broken. Freud discovered that our own mind creates traps to keep us in our comfort zone. It's called psychological resistance, and once you understand how it works, you'll finally get why you sabotage yourself right when you're about to get what you most need. Before we dive deep into this, if you want to better understand your own mind and discover the mysteries Freud unraveled about all of us, subscribe to the channel now. Hit the bell so you don't miss any insight that could change your life. And leave that like if you're also curious about what goes on in your head. And don't forget to share with that person who needs to hear this. Now let's explore what Freud has to teach us today. What is psychological resistance? Imagine your mind as a house. You've been living in this house for years, and even though some rooms are uncomfortable, cramped, or even a bit broken, you know every corner. You know where the creaky floorboard is, which door sticks, and exactly how to navigate in the dark. It's not perfect, but it's familiar. Now, someone comes along and says, "Hey, I can help you renovate this house. We can make it bigger, brighter, more comfortable." Sounds great, right? But here's the thing, renovation means chaos. It means tearing down walls, dealing with dust, living with uncertainty while the work is being done. And your mind thinks, you know what? This old house isn't so bad after all. This is psychological resistance. It's your mind's way of saying, I'd rather stay with the familiar problem than face the unknown solution. Freud discovered this when he was working with his patients. He noticed something curious. The people who needed help the most were often the ones who fought hardest against getting better. They would miss appointments, forget to do homework, change the subject when they got close to important insights, or suddenly decide that therapy wasn't working. At first, Freud thought these people were just being difficult, but then he realized something brilliant. Their resistance wasn't conscious. They weren't deliberately trying to sabotage their progress. Their unconscious mind was protecting them from something it perceived as dangerous, change itself. The comfort zone trap. Let's talk about comfort zones for a moment. We think of our comfort zone as this cozy, pleasant place where everything is easy and nice. But that's not always true. Your comfort zone is simply what's familiar to you. It's what your mind has learned to predict and control. Think about it this way. If you grew up in a chaotic household, drama might be your comfort zone. If you were raised by people who never expressed emotions, emotional numbness might feel normal to you. If you learn early that love comes with conditions, you might be comfortable with relationships that require you to constantly prove your worth. The tragic irony is that we often call our prison our home. We resist the very things that could set us free because freedom looks scarier than the cage we know. I had a friend who complained about being single for years. Every time someone would suggest online dating, therapy, or social activities where she might meet people, she had a reason why it wouldn't work. Online dating is superficial. Therapy is too expensive. I don't have time for social activities. But here's what was really happening. Being single was painful, but it was a pain she understood. Dating meant risking rejection, vulnerability, and the possibility of getting hurt in new ways. Her resistance wasn't about being picky or having high standards. It was about her unconscious mind calculating that the devil she knew was safer than the angel she did in single quotes T. How resistance shows up in daily life. Resistance is everywhere once you start looking for it. It's that voice in your head that says, "I'll start tomorrow," when you know you should start today. It's the way you suddenly get busy with unimportant tasks when you should be working on something meaningful. It's how to pick fights with people who are trying to help you. Let me give you some examples you might recognize. The perfectionist trap. You want to write a book, start a business, or learn a new skill, but you keep researching and planning without ever actually starting. Your mind convinces you that you need to know everything before you begin, but really, it's finding sophisticated ways to avoid the discomfort of being a beginner. The relationship saboteur. You finally meet someone who treats you well, but you start finding faults with them or creating unnecessary drama. Your unconscious mind is more comfortable with the familiar chaos of toxic relationships than with the unfamiliar territory of healthy love. The procrastination loop. You have an important project due, but you keep putting it off until the last minute. It's not that you don't care about the outcome. It's that starting means facing the possibility of failure, and your mind would rather delay that confrontation indefinitely. The therapy avoider. You know you have issues to work through, but you keep convincing yourself that you can handle it alone, or that therapy is for other people, or that you'll go when things get really bad. Your resistance is protecting you from having to face painful truths about yourself. The unconscious mind's logic. Here's what Freud understood that was revolutionary. Resistance isn't irrational. From your unconscious mind's perspective, it makes perfect sense. Your unconscious has one primary job: to keep you safe. And safe doesn't mean happy or fulfilled. It means predictable and familiar. Think of your unconscious like an overprotective parent. It learned early in your life what kinds of situations were dangerous and what kinds were safe. But here's the problem. It's still using the same rule book it created when you were 5 years old. So when you're 35, and your unconscious encounters a situation that reminds it of something that was scary when you were little, it hits the alarm button. It doesn't matter that you're now an adult with resources and capabilities you didn't have as a child. Your unconscious mind is still trying to protect that 5-year-old version of you. This is why resistance often feels so irrational. Your adult mind knows that going to therapy is good for you, but your unconscious mind might associate vulnerability with danger. Your conscious mind knows that healthy relationships are what you want, but your unconscious mind might equate being truly seen with being rejected. The paradox of resistance. Here's where it gets really interesting. The things we resist most strongly are often the things we need most desperately. Freud called this the paradox of resistance. The bigger the resistance, the more important the breakthrough waiting on the other side. It's like your unconscious mind is a guard dog, and it barks loudest when someone approaches the treasure it's protecting. The more fiercely you resist something, the more likely it is that this something holds the key to your growth. Think about areas of your life where you feel the strongest resistance. Maybe it's having honest conversation about your feelings, setting boundaries with family members, pursuing a creative dream you've been putting off, in a relationship. That's not serving, asking for help when you need it. That resistance isn't random. It's pointing you toward exactly what you need to work on. Modern examples of resistance. Let's bring this into the digital age. Social media has created new and sophisticated forms of resistance that Freud never could have imagined. The endless scroll. You know you should be working on something important, but you find yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media for hours. Your mind is choosing the familiar stimulation of social media over the uncertainty of creative work. The comparison trap. You want to start a business or share your art, but you spend all your time looking at what others are doing instead of working on your own projects. Your resistance is disguised as research, but it's really just a way to avoid the vulnerability of putting yourself out there. The information overload. You keep buying courses, reading books, and watching tutorials about personal development, but you never actually implement anything. Your mind has found a way to feel productive while avoiding the discomfort of actual change. The busy badge. You keep yourself so busy with urgent but unimportant tasks that you never have time for the things that would actually improve your life. Your resistance has learned to hide behind productivity. The fear behind the resistance. At the core of all resistance is fear, but it's not usually the fear you think it is. Most people think they're afraid of failure, but Freud discovered that we're often more afraid of success. Success means change. It means outgrowing old versions of ourselves. It means potentially leaving behind people who are comfortable with who we used to be. It means responsibility. It means the unknown. Sometimes we resist good things because we don't feel worthy of them. If you grew up believing that you don't deserve love, happiness, or success, then achieving these things can feel more threatening than comforting. I remember talking to someone who kept sabotaging job interviews. She would either show up late, underprepared, or would say something inappropriate right when things were going well. We discovered that she was afraid that if she got a good job, she would have to face the possibility of failure in a role that mattered to her. It was safer to fail at something she didn't really want than to risk failing at something she did. Working with resistance, not against it. Here's what most people get wrong about resistance. They try to fight it. They try to use willpower to overcome it, or they judge themselves for having it. But Freud taught us something different. Resistance isn't the enemy, it's information. Your resistance is like a smoke alarm. When a smoke alarm goes off, you don't smash it with a hammer. You investigate what's causing the smoke. Similarly, when you notice resistance, instead of fighting it, you can get curious about it. Ask yourself, what am I really afraid of here? What would change if I actually did this thing I'm avoiding? What am I trying to protect myself from? What would I have to give up if I move forward? Sometimes resistance is protecting you from something that really isn't in your best interest. But more often, it's protecting you from something that would be good for you, but feels scary to your unconscious. Mind. The resistance dance here is something fascinating. Resistance isn't static. It's dynamic. It adapts. As soon as you find a way around one form of resistance, your unconscious mind will create another. Let's say you finally decide to start exercising. Your first resistance might be I don't have time, so you wake up an hour earlier. Then your resistance becomes I don't have the right equipment, so you buy equipment. Then it becomes I don't know the proper form, so you hire a trainer. Then it becomes I'm tired after work. Your unconscious mind is incredibly creative. It can come up with endless reasons why now isn't the right time, why this isn't the right approach, why you should wait just a little longer. The key is to recognize this dance for what it is. You're not actually looking for the perfect time or the perfect plan. You're looking for a way to avoid the discomfort of change, and that's okay. That's human. But once you recognize it, you can choose differently, breaking through resistance. So, how do you actually work with resistance? Here are some strategies that Freud would approve of. Start small. Resistance gets stronger when the stakes feel high. Instead of trying to make massive changes all at once, make changes so small that your unconscious mind doesn't even notice them. Want to write a book? Start by writing one sentence a day. Want to get in shape? Start by putting on your workout clothes. Expect resistance. When you know resistance is coming, it loses some of its power. Before you start any important project or change, say to yourself, I'm going to want to quit. I'm going to find excuses. I'm going to feel like this isn't working. And that's normal. Get support. Resistance thrives in isolation. When you're alone with your thoughts, it's easy to convince yourself that your resistance is logical. But when you share your struggles with someone who understands, resistance loses its grip. Practice self-compassion. Resistance isn't a character flaw. It's a normal part of the human experience. Instead of judging yourself for having resistance, treat yourself with the same kindness you would show a friend who was struggling. The gift of resistance. Here's the thing that might surprise you. Resistance isn't just an obstacle to overcome. It's also a gift. It's your psyche's way of saying, this matters. This is important. This is worth protecting. When you feel resistance, you're not broken. You're human. You're bumping up against the edges of your comfort zone, which is exactly where growth happens. Freud understood that the goal isn't to eliminate resistance, but to develop a healthy relationship with it, to recognize it, understand it, and gently work with it rather than against it. Think of resistance like a worried friend. When your friend is worried about your new relationship, you don't cut them off or ignore them. You listen to their concerns, acknowledge their fears, and then make your own decision about how to proceed. Your resistance mappy want you to think about your own life for a moment. What are you avoiding? What conversations are you not having? What dreams are you not pursuing? What help are you not asking for? Your resistance is like a map of your potential. Wherever you feel the strongest resistance, that's where your biggest opportunities for growth are hiding. Maybe you've been telling yourself that you're not ready, that you need to wait until you have more money, more time, more experience, more confidence. But here's the truth. You'll never feel ready. Readiness is a feeling that comes after you start, not before. The courage to be uncomfortability. Working with resistance requires courage, not the courage to eliminate fear, but the courage to feel afraid and move forward anyway. Not the courage to be perfect, but the courage to be imperfect in public. Freud showed us that our minds are incredibly sophisticated at protecting us from discomfort, but sometimes discomfort is exactly what we need. Sometimes the thing we're running from is the thing that will save us. The question isn't whether you'll feel resistance. You will. The question is whether you'll let that resistance make your decisions for you, or whether you'll acknowledge it, thank it for trying to protect you, and then choose to move forward anyway. Remember, you're not running away from what you need because you're weak or broken. You're running away because you're human, and humans are wired to avoid uncertainty and discomfort. But you're also capable of incredible growth, change, and resilience. Your resistance isn't the end of the story. It's just the beginning of understanding yourself more deeply. And that understanding is the first step toward the life you actually want to live. So, what do you think? Does this help you understand why you sometimes sabotage yourself, right? When you're about to get what you need. If this video helped you recognize your own patterns of resistance, leave that like and subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Hit the bell because every week there's new content to help you decode the mysteries of your own mind. And now I want to know from you, what's one thing you've been avoiding that you know would be good for you? What resistance comes up when you think about actually doing it? Tell me here in the comments. I read them all and always respond. Remember, your resistance isn't your enemy, it's information. And once you understand what it's trying to protect you from, you can make a conscious choice about how to move forward. See you in the next video, where we'll explore more of what Freud discovered about the fascinating complexity of the human mind.